The Avengers! Hey everybody, thanks for clicking on this video and checking out my channel. Leading up to Avengers Endgame, I'm looking back at all the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies in preparation for the big event. If you'd like to join me for this journey, I'd welcome you to do so, and I'd love for you to do so we can talk about these movies together, and let's get a conversation going down in the comment section below. So our journey so far has brought us to the first Avengers movie. The Avengers was released in 2012 and was directed by Joss Whedon. It brings together Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Captain America, Black Widow, and Hawkeye for their first feature movie to take down a new threat in Loki when he arrives to Earth and threatens war. I was in the 7th grade when this movie came out. I was probably about 12 or 13 years old. I was the perfect age for this movie when it came out. I saw Iron Man 2, and Thor in theaters with my dad, but I missed out on seeing Incredible Hulk and Captain America: The First Avenger. So I remember seeing promotional footage for this movie with Iron Man in it and Thor, but Captain America was in it too, and so was Hulk, and I was like, well, I have to watch those movies. I haven't seen those ones yet. So I found some copies of Hulk and Captain America, and I watched them, and I went, oh wow, these guys are all going to be in one movie together? I was so pumped up. And so was the rest of the world. This movie was a huge thing when it was first coming out in 2012. I remember seeing promotional footage for this thing everywhere. It was on candy wrappers, it was on chocolate bars, it was on cereal boxes, it was just all over the marketplaces. And everyone that I knew was pumped for this movie too. So I remember seeing it opening weekend and being blown away by just how big and epic it was. And seeing all these characters come together was just remarkable. And all these years later, after watching it back, Marvel's achievement has not diminished at all. What stood out in this movie the most to me was having Loki as the villain. I didn't really think about this when I was younger, but that was a brilliant choice, because we already had him set up in the first Thor movie. We knew this character so well. When he first arrives and comes to Earth on this movie, I don't need any setup for this guy. I've had the setup. I know who he is. I know why he's mad. I know about his conflict with Thor. I know everything about this villain and this character. So this movie doesn't have to set him up at all. Which allows Tom Hiddleston to perform at his peak as the villainous Loki. And he is just hamming it up. You can just tell throughout this whole movie, he is loving the material that he's given. He is just chewing up every scene that he is in. All the anger and bitterness and jealousy towards Thor really comes out in this performance. And you can tell that this character has been hurt. And we know why he's been hurt, because we've seen it in Thor. Also, having the solo movies of Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, and Captain America was a brilliant decision as well, because their solo movies makes them coming together in this movie so much more impactful. This movie doesn't really give that much character development to these characters. I would say the most development you get is with Iron Man's Tony Stark, learning to work with a team, but even that character arc is very subtle. There's a couple of other ones in there too, like it's alluded to Captain America has been working with S.H.I.E.L.D. for a little bit of time now. And he starts to come to the realization that this agency has a couple secrets and lies to it when they start working on making weapons out of the Tesseract, much like Hydra was, which is a big red flag to Captain America. Thor's character arc is really coming to the realization that Loki isn't the brother that he once knew. Throughout most of this movie, he's really defensive about Loki. He's still trying to find the good in him. He's trying to bring him back. He even tries to reason with Loki in a lot of this movie, but Loki just doesn't have it. And through more and more betrayal, Thor kind of comes to the reality that his brother might not be there anymore. Bruce Banner is now portrayed by Mark Ruffalo, and if you watch my Incredible Hulk video, you know that I wasn't a big fan of Edward Norton's Bruce Banner. I just found him to be kind of bland and meh, and I didn't feel like Edward Norton was putting that much into his performance. Mark Ruffalo, to me, is already a big improvement in this movie. He plays the character kind of like someone trying to keep his cool. He's very mellow. He's very soft-spoken. He almost comes off as kind of shy at times, which kind of worked for me because he kind of came off as like an introvert a little bit. And whenever he's working on the screens, when he was working on the science in the helicarrier, he has this look of like he's interested. He looks intrigued by it. I buy into the fact that this character is really fascinated in science. I didn't really get that feeling with Edward Norton's Bruce Banner. But even without comparing this to Edward Norton, Mark Ruffalo gives a great first performance as Bruce Banner in this movie. And like I said, having the solo movies before this movie was really a smart idea, because all these characters, like Loki as the villain, is set up. I don't have to wonder about any of them. I know who they are. I've spent 2 movies with Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. I know this character pretty well at this point. I've seen Thor in his first movie, where he came from and how he's on Earth and why he wants to protect Earth. I've seen that. I understand that. I just watched Captain America's movie. I know where his origin is from. I know that he's not from this time, and I've seen him in the other time. It's more effective actually seeing him from World War II in this movie, because everything is so new to him. He doesn't understand very much about this world, and he's kind of removed himself from it. The Avengers is really what brings Captain America, Steve Rogers, back into the world. And that's more effective after watching the first Captain America movie, as opposed to having him introduced in this movie and having a bunch of exposition saying, oh yeah, you were in World War II, you got frozen, and now you're in this world. That wouldn't be as effective. The only new characters really in this movie are Hawkeye and Bruce Banner. And Hawkeye really gets pushed to the sidelines in this movie. It's been said a number of times. He gets mind controlled by Loki. They kind of remove him from the movie for a large chunk of it. The only real new character is Bruce Banner. But they do have some connections to the Incredible Hulk. Like when Tony Stark invites Bruce Banner to come to New York with him. Bruce Banner said, "Last time I was in New York, I kind of wrecked Harlem." Which I'm pretty sure is a reference to the third act of Incredible Hulk, where Hulk and Abomination are fighting. I think that was in Harlem, I can't remember, but it seemed like there was a connection there. There were more connections in this movie to the Incredible Hulk than I actually thought there was. And in the same way that all the solo movies coming before this movie is brilliant for having these characters set up so that we can just get to the action in this movie has a lot of action in it, but I'll get to that a little later. Having the solo movies also benefits this movie because having these characters come together in this movie is so much more satisfying after watching them in their solo movies. Throughout this entire movie, these characters do not get along. All their egos just clash. They're so different people, they don't mesh well together. They bicker and argue with each other constantly, and they're always making cracks and jokes about each other. It's funny having all these characters that I've liked from these past movies come together and do nothing but argue and bicker and fight, and have a lot of fun with it. Those scenes are so much fun. Just having them in the scenes together, interacting with each other, playing off of each other is so much fun, even if what they're doing isn't exactly getting along. But the arguing and the bickering and the fighting at the beginning and the middle half of the film makes the later half of the film, when they come together as the Avengers, as a team, so much more satisfying. And the final act of the battle in New York is one of the biggest scaled, biggest scoped battle scenes in the MCU still to this day. This thing is a juggernaut. There's so much going on. It goes on for like 30 minutes straight of the army just coming down the wormhole and the Avengers fighting them off in New York. And the way that the camera moves through the city to find each Avenger constantly keeps me engaged in this battle because it's constantly moving. It's constantly changing directions. And just the look of it from the outside of the city and the overshots of the city just make this battle look ginormous. And this third act battle is still some of the most fun within the MCU for me. And this movie is 7 years old now, and the special effects and CGI in this movie still look pretty great. I thought the battle in New York still looked awesome. I felt like the Tatari, the alien being, still looked really good. The portal in the sky still looks like it's really there. There's only really a few moments where the CGI looks noticeable, but for the most part, the CGI in this movie is holding up tremendously. And to really sum it up, the first Avengers movie, I think, is still great. It's not the deepest story, it's not the most complex story, it's not even that much character development within it. It's got so many characters that it's trying to focus on. But because we've had 5 movies setting up all these characters before this movie came out, and those past movies allows this movie to be able to have paper-thin characters and paper-thin character arcs, as well as have a generic kind of villain concept and have it mean much more to the audience. And the impact of this movie, especially after watching the past 5 movies again and then watching this movie, is still very strong to me. I have seen Tony Stark and Captain America interact in countless MCU movies at this point. But when they first come on screen together for the first moment taking down Loki in this movie, I got chills just seeing those two characters that I've watched in other films separately come together in the frame. The Avengers is just action-packed, filled with fun characters and fun dialogue. It's a monumental moment in my cinematic experience, and it's the movie that made me go, alright, Marvel, whatever you guys put on screen, I'm gonna watch it. Marvel's 5-film and 4-year plan worked out even better than I think they thought it would. And if this plan in this movie did not hit the way that it did, I doubt that we're sitting here today. The Marvel Cinematic Universe phenomenon taking over the theaters and the world like it is today. And what Marvel, Kevin Feige, and Joss Whedon did with this movie definitely deserves all the recognition that it's gotten. Guys, thanks again for watching this video and checking out my channel. And with the Avengers, we have reached the end of Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 1. What was your favorite movie of Phase 1? Was it Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, or the Avengers? Comment down below, let me know what you thought about these movies, let me know your favorite, let me know what you think about the Avengers. Do you think it's overrated, or do you think it's as great as everyone says it is? Comment down below, let me know all your thoughts and opinions about this movie. Guys, we've hit Avengers, we've ended Phase 1, but guess what? There's still Phase 2 and 3 to go through, and I'm going to be back talking more MCU movies very soon. If you'd like to join me for that ride, I welcome you to do so. I'd love to have you back, and let's keep the conversation going. Once again, guys, my name's Zachary Milne. Thank you for talking movies with me, and I hope you have yourself a great day.